Hey, team, welcome back to another episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader podcast. This is your host, Mark Jewell, and today I am joined by Craig Patty, who I know you guys are going to learn a ton from. He is with River Valley Co-op. I'll let him talk about that in his background here in just a minute. But Craig, welcome to the show. Thanks for being
Yeah,
here.
Mark. No, appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Admired your work for a long time, so it's great to be able to have a conversation with you here today.
Absolutely, very cool, man. Well, let's start it off. You know how it goes.
Yep.
What does it mean for you to be intentional?
Yeah, for me, I think a lot about that because I really think it's kind of the foundation for how I can be successful.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm kind of one of those guys that struggles with a mind that goes a lot of different directions. So I think it's really important for me to get really intentional about my actions and make every moment count as much as I possibly can. And so when I look at it from like a work related perspective, just laying out a schedule, hold myself accountable to that schedule, sharing that schedule with others. I think it's really important to be consistent and almost predictable in the role I'm in, just so people feel comfortable with me. So I think knowing my schedule, knowing what I'm about, what I'm trying to accomplish, I think is extremely important. And so that serves me very well at work. And I think it's also very important that being intentional about how I show up. I think that's key. That I'm consistent in that fashion too. So when things are good or things are bad, I like to celebrate the good things, but when things are bad, they need somebody that's consistent, that's going to listen, act kind of in the same mannerisms that they typically would. So I think that's really important. And then as a friend and a husband and a father, you want to go home and you want to be the same way. You want to be intentional as well. So
Mm-hmm.
intention about and not be focused on work, but be intentional about how I'm listening, what we're talking about, making sure I'm fully engaged. I'm blessed with a great family and friends, and I want to serve them as best I can as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good, man. I love it. I think the thing you opened up with really caught my attention, and I think could be because we work with so many people in your position and similar positions across the industry where there is a lot of distraction.
Yes,
And
yeah,
the distraction is both internal because your brain is going a million miles a minute, but then there's also the external attacks or requests for your time. You know,
absolutely right. Yeah,
so
no, it's easily to get distracted, and yeah, I've known myself a long time, so I know that I've got to manage that. So,
yeah.
but being intentional is my sole focus to help me with that.
Yep. Yep. You and me both. I'm adding another phone to my portfolio, and literally I'm moving all of my social media, anything, because it's very easy for
Oh,
me to
nice.
and see, trying to see, okay, well, how is our LinkedIn doing? How is our post performing? Like and then that leads into other scrolling and you get just lost. It's so easy to get lost
Yeah,
on all the other
exactly.
things.
Yeah.
So this was actually another podcaster influencer had recommended this in a video. I'm like, I'm going to do that. Like I'm moving all my social, all my scrolling, anything that scrolls
It's a
is
really good idea. Yeah,
going to a different phone and it's going to sit on my desk. And everything that's functional, email, phone, CRM, basic equipment that I need in my phone,
sure.
Zoom, etc. I'm going to leave that on my regular phone, get rid of everything else, and I'll just go like allot myself a certain amount of time per day to go use that other phone, not carry it with me everywhere I go. Because like you know what, if you got to post it, you can post it later.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're spot on. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so I'm going to give that a go. I'll report back later,
Okay,
everybody.
good. Yeah, well, let me know because that could be the
But
secret for me. So
yeah, but I think it's important. Intentional leaders to tend to have some sort of process for or tactic for defending their time. Anything for you that just works to help kind of keep your schedule, and not someone else's.
yeah, I really kind of think the setting that initial schedule. So I share that with my team members in our regional office that I report to on occasion, on most of the time, I should say. And I think that kind of helps set the tone, and then they know what I'm focused on. And so I think that's where the accountability really lies. And then I don't get pulled into meetings perhaps that aren't a part of that schedule. So I think that helps a lot. Otherwise, there's times just to block it out on your calendar, right? And just make that time, whether you're just have a project you got to do or some time you just need to think. So real important just to dedicate that time and block that time and make sure it's important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I was just listening to Alex Hormozy on a podcast this morning while I was driving to the gym, and he was talking about allocating different labels to your time, which I thought was really interesting.
It
So
is.
he was talking about, so we have what's called like maker time, right? And in his book, maker time are the times when you got to sit down and do maybe the more creative things, right? Like writing copy, putting together. I mean, in our world, right, it might be going through some spreadsheets and looking at, I don't know, cash flow projections or right,
Mhm.
certain things that just, I mean, they take time. You have to sit there, look at data, write things, put numbers in. If it's a spreadsheet, right, it's like that takes time. And every time
Sure.
you get a distraction in that time, it takes more time to get your focus back. and right. So maker time has to happen in like minimum for the way our brains work in the minimum of like 3 or 4 hour chunks.
That's interesting.
You
Yeah.
block off that the so maker time is for making stuff, right? The creative aspect of being a leader. And then there's manager time, right? And manager time is those are the times when we're in the little conversations with other people. We're doing a podcast interview right now, and I'm going to do a coaching conversation after that, and then right, and then there's like these little conversations that happen
Mhm.
throughout the day, and so you break up your day into like say 15-minute chunks. And the goal of a manager ought to be to maximize those 15-minute chunks, even if somebody's getting 2 or 3 or 4 of those 15-minute chunks, right?
Mhm.
So anyway, that was on my
Yeah.
mind while we're
Yeah.
on the topic because
No,
that's
that's interesting. Yeah, one thing I do struggle with, I think with working with three different business units, as how do I allocate my time to those three different business units, and
mm-hmm.
it's easy to go one way or the other, and to really dedicate that time and have some structure around that. Something I really been thinking about.
Yeah, it's a never ending challenge, right? But I think that's why
Yeah,
intentional leadership is really important, right? Like you have to be intentional for yourself and your time just as much as you do for everybody else. Otherwise, you're just distracted in those moments anyway.
you bet.
So, Craig, tell us a little bit about yourself, background, anything important that you think folks ought to know more about.
Sure. Yeah. No, I grew up in Illinois. I was born in Colorado, so that's kind of my claim to fame around here. There's not too many guys born in Colorado, but
Huh.
grew up in Illinois. Grew up around agriculture there. Spent 22 years, most of my career in the grain business. Was able to transition in 2013 and get on the agronomy side of things, and really enjoyed my time. And worked with three different companies there. Then had the opportunity to come to River Valley and was in a role of managing crop protection and in seed initially, then quickly transitioned into this role of vice president of sales and marketing with River Valley. So I work with the energy team, feed team, and agronomy team, and just been a great move on for me. And it's just been a lot of fun along the way. Just a lot of good things going here. River Valley's got a strong history back from 1906 is actually when some of the co-ops were formed that are part of the River Valley today. And then we merged the Iowa side merged in 1996 and became River Valley Co-op. And then since then we've progressed into Illinois and to what we are today. So about
Wow.
30 locations: Eastern Iowa, Western Illinois, feed, agronomy, energy, and grain.
Wow, fantastic. You guys have got a big footprint and a lot of people to take care of over there.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about that. I know the big topic these days that seems to come up everywhere is around talent attraction and retention. Where we going to find them, and how are we going to get them in here? How are we going to keep them? Anything that you found is working for you, or just your opinions on the matter?
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting challenge we all face, and I think obviously with in 2020 that it increased dramatically. We went a few years prior to that with not a lot of turnover, and we talked about how didn't come into play, and really the only people that actually left prior to 2020 were the people that we parted ways with. We thought it would be better for them to go somewhere else. So, but since then the world's kind of changed, right? And I think it's not all bad. I mean, I think some people have kind of looked at their lives and what they want to do with it, and some people have left for some really good opportunities, whether that's to go home and farm full time, which a lot of our people do here today. That's why they're working here. They work here and then they farmed, and so they had the opportunity to go do that full time, or they went to find a career that they really love to do, and I'm totally okay with that. So, but with that being said, we've focused a lot on retention, and part of it is finding the right people, right? Finding the right
Yeah.
people to fit in your culture. First and foremost, the whole onboarding process is critical. We align ourselves as managers with all of our employees, regardless of what job family they fall into, and so I'll be assigned to people as they come on board, and then it's my responsibility to stay in touch with those people over the first year, make
Mhm.
sure things are going good for them, and then really just be in a place that people want to work, right? And I think that's the key for us, is that we want to be the employer of choice, and we want people to feel valued. We want them to have a good work-life balance. So we spend a lot of time talking about that. And being one of the older guys, we talk a lot about work-life balance and how the old days, right? But I think people kind of got it right now in a lot of respects.
Yeah.
I think that I think it's good to have work-life balance. We need to recognize that that's more of a demand than it's ever been, and I think it's rightfully so. So
Mhm.
that's a tough hill in ag retail, though, with the commitment of hours and that. We've done some unique things to try to balance that out. So it's
Mhm.
something we talk about a lot. We focus on a lot, and it will continue to be a challenge, and we just need to stay in the front of it.
Yeah. What do you think people think about, or how do they define work-life balance in that context, right? Because I mean, we have,
Yeah,
there's the big umbrella term like work-life balance. To me, there's a work-life blend. Like that's how I sort of start to define it, and then we go from there. But I'm just curious, like, what's an employee expect? When we start talking about that, I'm just curious what comes up in your conversations.
yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's with different people with different stages in their life, and we have an individual that's got 4 young kids, and he farms, and he does his job at a very high level, and he just wants the flexibility to take care of his farm when he needs to, and not
Mhm.
miss too many ball games. So I think that's something where somebody wants to maybe have that more of a work life balance, whether it's a hybrid from home on occasion or in the office. And so really identifying what those are, what those triggers are, and then seeing if we can develop a strategy or a plan around that. And that's
Mhm.
not always the case. Ag retail tends to be a bit of a contact sport.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
need to be sensitive to that. But also the one thing I really try to avoid, and make sure our people do too, because you see it happen day in and day out, is FaceTime, and just like, why are you here?
Mhm.
You just work a weekend. It's a rainy Monday. Why don't you, go take care of something this afternoon and on a
Yeah.
Monday afternoon? So just trying to help people find that balance too, and be really efficient with their time. And I
Mhm.
think that goes back to, just being intentional, right? I mean, how are you getting your work done so you can maximize that time the way you're here, and you can, maximize your time at home.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know what your thoughts are, but that's kind of my.
Well, yeah, it can be sticky because if we let it, it'll just be a buzzword, right? It'll be something everybody talks about. And so my question always is, like, so well, if you had more time, right, where would you allocate it? How would you use it? Okay. And then we talk to most of our clients. We kind of make fun of this at our programs. We say, hey, if we all woke up tomorrow and Biden was feeling even more generous, not only is he forgiving student loans, but he's giving us all an extra 2 hours tomorrow,
Mhm.
like 26 instead of 24. Good for everybody.
Right,
What would you do with the time if you had it? Right. And you let
right,
people think about it for a minute, and a lot of them, being honest, will come back and say, I'll just put more stuff in,
right.
because that's what we do. That's our mentality. That's what we're trained to do. So one of the things we talk about is what's called the law of infusion. The law of infusion states that I can only infuse others to the degree that I first infuse myself. And this is what I would implore people to do with a little bit of extra time here. They're 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, whatever. But read a book, go for a walk, go get a workout, spend some time with your significant other that's not around solving problems or money or something, right? And
Right.
like actually infuse oneself. So I can only serve others. I can only be a servant to my customers and my colleagues and my kids, and
Absolutely.
to the extent that I have the capacity, right, to be present and intentional. So that's one of the core concepts that we teach in our Thriving Leader program. And what it does is it gives people permission when they have the experience to allow them a little bit more time for themselves. Here's why that's important. If I have, most people are not good with money. We're not good with money, because we weren't trained on how to be good with money, how to make money work for us, and things like that. I know I've had to go through my own battles in my career, and learn how
Sure.
to give it buckets, right? So when I allocate buckets for my money, okay, so this much goes to my tithe, and this much goes to my family, and this much goes to this part of the business and that part of the business, and payroll and all the things, right? So we have to give it places to go. And when it has places to go, it goes there.
Hmm.
When I'm not disciplined, it goes wherever feels
Hmm.
good in the moment,
Sure. Absolutely. No,
right?
that's
So
yeah.
money is the same way, but we do the same thing with our time. time's just another currency. Right. So we have to give, I'm not just talking about like allocating time in the calendar. Yes, that's important. But I'm talking about like being really intentional. Like, what's my experience? What's the standard for how I get to live life?
Yeah. No, makes sense.
Yeah.
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 Makes sense.
Yeah. That's something that really gets me fired up about helping people, and like, this podcast and the work that we do at Thrive Today. But because I think that's when we talk work-life balance, that's really important to me. It's like, cool. If you not only yes balance, and like, what does that look like? Where would you put your time?
Right.
If you weren't grinding 100 hours, or when the 100-hour a week time is over in ag retail, let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
That's coming once a year, right? At least, sometimes twice. So in the other times, how are you allocating the 30 or 40 hours a week?
Absolutely right. And I think too, we invest in technology, and we try to support our salespeople the best we possibly can. Our entire organization, are they fully utilizing the tools that we're providing them, or do we need to bring something else in addition to help them be to have that work-life balance, to be able to leave and feel comfortable, and have that flexibility where they can perhaps approve an order from a phone instead of doing it from a desk. And that's not always the case, not fully utilizing it. So we fall back on maybe bad habits because that's what we've always done. So really challenging people to maybe think differently about their work and utilize the tools that we've allowed, provided them.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Craig, talk to us a little bit about you. What's been one of those big challenges, big hurdles that you've had to overcome in your short career?
Yeah, short career. Yeah, it seems short. It doesn't seem like it's been this long, but there's been a few. I think the one that probably comes to mind the most, and that I think about a lot, but it was about the time when I had about 22 years in the grain business, like I said, and I was just getting to the point where I had a great team there. We brought together some super talented individuals that were high performing, and you could just start to feel that things were just not quite what they were before, and everything kind of runs its course. So getting to that point where you knew it was time to make a career change, and I think that watching those people hit the door was a challenge. It was really kind of a dark time for me, and realizing I had to make a change too, and leaving something I knew something about. So probably one of the scary times of my life when I shifted completely from grain to agronomy. And anybody that listens to this podcast knows when I first started, I did not know anything, and I probably don't know as much as I should today about agronomy. But that was a challenging time where I stepped away when I didn't have all the answers. That was 22 years, but I had most of them that I needed to completely not having anything at all. So it was the best thing I did for myself. It was from 2013 to up until joining River Valley. Those were some challenging times with some challenging roles, but I learned a lot, met a lot of great people. And so coming through that, I think has really helped me in my career, and it's helped me help people through some adversity. As you talk about, people leaving and having people and keeping attracting talent and retaining talent. I think that's kind of helped me, that whole thought process of losing that team and kind of reforming myself. And so I think that's some things I think about a lot. That's kind of I faced, you just face challenges, right? You go from something that you know very, very well to you don't know anything, and it's a humbling but a positive experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's scary for a lot of people. If you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you went through that transition?
So it had been 10 years ago. So 43 years old.
Yeah. 43. Yeah. So this is a completely non-scientific observation that I'm having, because I'll be 43 in 3 weeks. So, and I went through this about 2 years ago. Going through COVID was a huge catalyst for us, because it became running an event focused business was a very tough time. So we got to go through a lot of transition, and we've got the great opportunity to rebuild from the ground up. I've noticed a lot of my peers, a lot of my cohorts, a lot of our coaching clients, similar in age, maybe from that 39 to mid 40s range, hitting that barrier at some point. So maybe they call it the midlife crisis or something like that, right?
Yep.
But there's a redefinition time, I think, where you sort of have to die to the old in order to become the new version of yourself, right?
Yeah, I think that's very well said.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, if I would have stayed in that role, I think things would have been just fine. But I think going through those challenges and learning some new things and failing miserably a lot of during those 10, that time after I left the grain business, it really helped me to be able to do this job I have today. I mean, I
Mhm.
wouldn't have been able to do the job that I have today, and if I didn't have those experiences. So
Yep. Yep. I think there's a lesson in it though for the intentional leaders listening in, because you if you got a decent sized team, you probably have a certain number of people in your organization, maybe even on your team, that are hitting that age range, right? And pay attention, right? Because if you got somebody who's, I always put people on a capability versus motivation, chart, right? And
sure,
so
yeah,
do they have high motivation, and do they have high capability, or where are they at on a scale of 1 to 10, right?
yeah,
And if their capability is high but their motivation's low and they're 42, it probably isn't you, right? It's probably like there's just at that point where it's like you,
sure.
you got to look ahead, like, well, I only got maybe 25 years left in my career. Is this what I want to do for
Oh,
the
that's
next,
a great point. Yeah, that's a
right?
great point.
So I think that's just a human to human conversation, maybe in getting them a mentor who's been through it. I think that'd be a great investment at that stage.
And that's
So
the key into retaining talent too, is to identify that and be proactive around it versus reactive.
yeah.
Reactive, they walk out the door, then everybody fails. But if you can have that conversation and get
Yep.
that person on the right path, before they leave, that's key.
Yeah. And we always want to make it about like there's something wrong, right? I mean, and they may not have, especially if it's a man, he probably doesn't have the words to put around what
Yeah,
he's feeling.
yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, what I'm trying to remember my next question here. I'm having so much fun. What so that's the biggest hurdle. What's been your biggest win?
Oh, biggest wins, people by far. Yeah, I just this thinking about this conversation gave me the opportunity just to think through it. But I just I've always just been very blessed to be around tremendous people. And I go back to, and I work with tremendous group today, and just, to be able to think that I could finish my career here and work with the group I do today. But, we had an opportunity back in the 2000s to just put together a great sales group. And this group was a very diverse group. Some didn't come from agriculture, some did, but to bring them in to the business, help them learn the business, and as all these individuals have taken off in their own career, and a few you've had on your podcast,
Mm-hmm.
it's just great to see them have success. So
Cool.
my biggest part of my job, excuse me, I love helping people be successful, and I love to see those people that come in maybe not quite sure about what they're signed up for, but learn it, have passion around it, and then move on and just do great things. So it's the people by far for me.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it. That's definitely been the dominant theme of all the people I've interviewed on that question, and rightfully so. For doing our job, that should really be the biggest thing that we're hoping to create more of, is multiplication of self through leadership. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, we can talk about business all we want, but if our people are successful, then our customers are going to be successful and our business will be successful.
you bet. Who have you personally looked up to or admired?
Yeah. I've had a few individuals along the way, actually. Just, I think the opportunity to work with my grandpa growing up on his farm and getting a passion around agriculture. And I think seeing how much he struggled in the 80s, I think inspired me to be a part of agriculture and help farmers make better decisions. So that's a real reason why I got into agriculture. I think one of my first bosses really taught me how to be a man in this world. Taught me how to treat coworkers, treat customers, engage people, and taught me just a lot about the business. So I have a lot of respect for him, and I think about him every day. And then one individual in particular I think about is I made the transition from grain, a very traditional grain originator business, role, into a sales role. He was my first sales manager, and he said a lot of things that make sense to me even today. But get comfortable being uncomfortable. He said that back in 2001, and that still rings true today. And so I think about that a lot. But
Mm-hmm.
how he approached his job, how he approached us as a team, and the one thing he did, he sat down with me, and I like to have fun. I lead by humor, and he said, Craig, you lead by humor, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be yourself. You have to be genuine. You have to be authentic, and it's okay to do that. And I really think that him saying that kind of catapulted my career to fall back on. I can be myself. We can have fun. We're going to have some wins. We're going to have some tough discussions, but we're going to enjoy ourselves. And it really let me be my authentic self. And I think that allowed me to acquire and to attract some of the talent that we were able to. So I think a lot of him for that.
That's awesome. That's great advice.
It was that's back when you're trying to figure out who you're going to be, right? Because
Yeah.
you're going through the 90s and you kind of work for some of these hard guys. It's like, wow, I mean, is this what I got to do to be successful? This
Mhm.
isn't me. This is not going to go well. And then you get this really nice guy that comes in and he holds you accountable, but we're going to have a good time. And Craig, you can do this, right? And it was huge. So, but then that shows you the opportunity you have to do that with young people today, right? So I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
How we coach our people, making sure they're getting coached. And so, that's one thing I think about a great deal. For me,
Yeah.
I think one of the most frustrating things I see is somebody my age or perhaps a little older, and you can tell they've never been coached. They've
Hmm.
never have been given feedback. They're probably led with an iron fist, and now they're great people, but they're kind of lost, right? And so,
Yep.
helping those people formulate themselves, and have those discussions early on is just critical.
Yeah. Yep. I'm thinking about one guy that's going through our program right now. His name's Scott. And, he was the one that the client was the most worried about when they signed their team up for training, right? Because nobody wants to make an investment in somebody who's not going to take advantage of it, right?
Right.
But we're quite afraid that he's going to ruin the whole event. And he got sort of that grizzly bear persona, prickly pear sort of thing, but he's a big teddy bear, once you got through to him the right way, and nobody had just been willing to stand up and give the level of feedback in
Sure.
the way that he would receive it. And you know I mean, he's pushing 50.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, what potential did we miss out on
Absolutely.
the
No,
first
for
30
sure.
years, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So yeah, but he's doing great now, by the way. So
That's
Scott,
great.
if Scott's listening, he probably knows who he is. So good job, buddy.
And don't take for
Uh,
granted that individuals like that don't want to be a part of a program like yours, right? That they
yeah,
don't want to, they want to excel.
yeah,
You think they're set in their ways. No, that's not always the case.
yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, please, like, send me your guy that you think is maybe a little bit too far along to make the investment in, or they're just not open to it. I love it. And it's one of the main objections actually that we'll get in our sales process is like, well, I don't think, these guys are a little bit too old. We probably shouldn't send them. And I'm like, no, please. Like,
Yeah.
if you can help maximize the institutional knowledge that these guys have from 30 or 40 years of being out here doing stuff from their teenage years to their 55 or 60, right? Wow. Like, and we can crack that open and get you a big return on 30 or 40 years of institutional knowledge in the last 5 years that this person is with you. Why would you
Huge.
not want that? What's the
Yeah.
upside?
Huge upside. Yeah, absolutely.
Huge, right? But we
Yeah.
just don't. We just let kind
No,
of let them, wither on the vine, and we don't. And then, hey, thanks for being here. Here's your plaque and gold watch, and good luck with your retirement.
sure.
So
No,
another area I get a little fired up about because, like, I mean, I'm a Christian, so as far as I know, like, if I'm still walking around, God has purpose for me.
hmm
You know what I'm saying? So, like, there's still purpose.
yeah,
I don't care how old you are. I mean, you could be 80, and then at the same, like, I see, 80, 89-year-old dudes still running marathons. So it's like, I mean, who's capping this human potential thing? I don't believe
no.
in.
Good point. Good point.
So, all right, books and podcasts. I know you spend a fair amount of time in the vehicle, so probably some auto books and podcasts. But what are you reading? What are you listening to?
Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed your podcast as I kind of got prepared for this conversation, but just listening to the people you've had on and what you provided, it's been really great. So I listened to that quite a
Appreciate that.
bit. Um, the one book that really kind of, and I listen to books a lot because I drive a lot and I try to make good use of my time, and nobody really wants to talk on the phone before 7 o'clock. So I try to use that in the morning. But um, the 5 second rule by Mel Robbins,
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
one. That's one that really resonated with me, and you probably know it, obviously, but
yeah, yeah.
pretty easy concept. That's probably why I got it. But 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and take action. Right? If it's a good idea, otherwise your body won't do it. So whether that's having a conversation
Yep.
with that challenging customer, or calling an old friend, or
Mm-hmm.
getting out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning and doing that workout versus hitting snooze, right? So I think that's really helped me a lot in a lot of my actions. So I really appreciated that book. And then Cues by Vanessa Van Edwards. So
Okay.
it's kind of a body language, it's, and that always interests me. I like to be able to read a room before I walk in it and understand people's body language. And not only that, but how I'm representing myself And I think that's going back to being intentional. How are you showing up and making sure that I'm doing that in the most positive way possible? But she has some really cool content and cool ideas.
Okay. Awesome. What was that? Choose or shoes?
Q's, Cues, like so.
Cues.
Yeah.
QU. Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Or CU, yeah,
CUES.
CUES.
Okay. Got it. Cues. I like that. Okay. So that's the body language book. Good stuff. I gotta share a funny story about the Mel Robbins 5 second rule thing. So this is going back about 11 or 12 years ago, but I had actually written a workshop or a module that was part of a workshop called the 5 second rule. This is
Oh, really?
before she blew up as an author and speaker and everything. And now I think
Yeah.
probably 150K minimum to book her to speak would be my guess. And but it was her thing is 5 second rule. Like it helped her get over her depression and help her get out of bed. You hear the alarm get off, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up. Like don't hit snooze, just go. Right. And that was her way. And I think her way much better than the one I wrote, I'll be honest, because my whole thing was based off of 5 second rule. Like if you drop food on the floor,
Yeah, exactly.
it's like stupid idea that it's okay, there's nothing wrong with it, pick it up and eat it. And if I'm willing to go after some food that I dropped on the floor and get after it as quickly as I do, even though I probably ought not to and it's not proper, right? What else am I leaving on the table that I could just get after, but I'm talking myself out of by thinking about it?
It's still a really good analogy. I mean, it's a great concept, right? It's so true. So true.
So to this day I've never actually spoken that on stage or said it anywhere, but
Oh, that's interesting.
we
Yeah.
did we did the workshop a couple times, and then Mel Robbins like exploded, and now like she dominates 5 second rule, and I'm never gonna
Well,
brand.
now I'm kind of sorry I brought it up, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not mad about it. We've got our own thing, but
No, it's good.
What for you works to keep your energy going, keep your energy high?
Yeah, first and foremost, I mean, I love my job, and I think that that's imperative, right? So I mean, people give me a hard time, but I do look forward to Mondays. I just enjoy what I do. I feel blessed. So, I kind of start out each day feeling very blessed and thankful for the opportunity I have. So I think that gives you the ownership to really be your best each and every day. So I really focus on that. The other thing is, just taking care of myself. I'm I I get up every morning. I do a workout. Don't always look like it, but I do. That helps me get my mind right. I'll get my mind set. I may not always make it to work exactly on time based upon that, but that gets me set for my day. So I see too many people in our business that maybe take that time for granted, and so you got to take time, whether that's reading or just having time to yourself. But that time to me is really important in the morning to get to my mind right. So a lot of that. Other than that, I've got a great family and I got a great wife, and I got two good kids that have two great kids with two great spouses that live close to me. I've got a 1.5-year-old granddaughter that is awesome, and she thinks I'm awesome right now. So if that doesn't keep your energy up, I don't know what does. So, but those are a few things that come to mind.
Cool. Good. I love it. And that's all good things. Loving your job. That's a big part of it, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because I've been on the other side of it, and it's not a good place to be, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you're not working towards your passion today, you probably need to be thinking about what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. What we talked a little bit about this at the onset, but any other tips or pro tips you have for maximizing productivity?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the one thing I've really thought about, and it's one thing I really want to focus on improving on this year too, is just time. I mean, I've thought a lot more about time, and you look back, I guess, if you're longer in your career, but you think about the time that was wasted, whether it was wasted, you wasted it yourself, or it was wasted in meetings or training that wasn't impactful. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I've just decided, I'm not going to waste time. I'm just,
Nice.
and I'm not going to waste my time on things that don't add value, and I'm not going to waste our people's time.
Yeah.
And so when we have meetings and is it important? Are we the right people in the room? Do we have an agenda? And is it going to be impactful? And we are always going to finish on time. I hate when meetings go long. So that's one thing that I've thought a lot about. Otherwise, just really knowing myself. And I think it's important for people to know themselves. When's your peak performance time? For me, it's that morning. I'm a morning person. I like to get after it. In the afternoon, mid-afternoon, I'm not probably going to take on a project. I'm probably looking for something else to do. So that's a good opportunity for me to make some phone calls and disengage with some people, so I can still be productive, but perhaps move on to something that is less perhaps task oriented. So there's a few things that come to mind.
Yeah. I really like that last bit that you said, all of it actually, but that last bit around knowing your productive time is
Yeah.
really important. My wife and I are completely opposite. And we when we're not traveling, we're obviously working in the same home. We've now merged her business and my business together, so we have one complete
Okay.
offer from employee level coaching all the way to executive coaching. So she's been an executive coach for a while, and we've had Thrive Today for a long time. So now we're merging both of those together for one comprehensive offer in places where it makes sense. And public more a more public and more formal announcement forthcoming on that. But she likes a nice slow morning to work on stuff that's important for her. And then when it comes to getting work done, it's like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And then she could literally just go the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And mine is like between 6 a.m. and 11.
Yeah.
Those are my most productive hours. And so it's been an interesting balance trying to get us.
Sure. That's challenging.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like, oh, I'm done, I'm ready to go. Like, let's. And she's like, she'd continue on till 6 or 7 if we didn't have to sit down and feed kids and eat things and stuff like
Sure.
that. So,
No.
but it's important to know, like, our bodies. Everybody has a different, a little bit different rhythm that we're programmed with.
Yeah.
Life has brought you there, and it's and pay attention to what that is, because you might assign. For me, I need to assign like admin and detail and working on my business to the morning hours, doing emails, writing proposals, the stuff that requires a lot of focus and mental
Mhm.
bandwidth. And then in the afternoon, I like to make my podcasts. I like to, like, we're
Sure.
2:30 in the afternoon or Eastern time having this conversation, because that for me is a better time to do this, because this is easy for my brain
Right.
do, where doing this in the morning, I'm still wanting to go back to, like, I got to focus on the things.
Exactly. No,
So,
makes sense.
but glad you brought that up, because I think that somebody listening probably needs to hear that, and they're feeling like a grift or a grind on how they allocate their time, and it's not a fun way to live.
No, for sure. And out of season, I'll take an in season call anytime, but out of season, I mean, at 8 o'clock at night, I really don't want to talk about work.
Yeah.
But we've got some people that are wired that way, so it's funny how we coexist. So what you said about your
Yeah.
wife, your wife, it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. What's the biggest thing for you want to go to work on and improve this year?
I mentioned the time thing, so I think that's something that's really important. And then having that resonate, cascade across the organization. So just
Got it.
we have a meeting, having an agenda and such, and I think that's really important. I
Yep.
think too, like delegating is something I think that is something I really want to focus on. We had 360 reviews we did this year,
Mhm.
and that was some of the feedback that I received, that they would like to see me pass along more stuff. I am a little bit of a control freak, just a little, but
Mhm.
also, the bigger thing is you hate to put more of a burden on people because they're so busy. And
Yeah.
so once you realize that, hey, that's empowering, and you're helping people develop. And so trying to be more actionable about that, and really passing on some things, because got talented people around me that actually could probably more than likely do it better, right? So why wouldn't you do that, and you can move quicker and have a better product? So those are a couple things that come to mind.
Sure. Very good, man. I love that. The delegation is huge. That's a lot of, we all struggle with holding on to things. So that what okay, the last question, I'm bringing it for landing. So what role does vulnerability play in being able to create an intentional work environment from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think that it's part of being, just who you are, and allowing your weaknesses to show that you're a real person. I have talents that I bring to the organization and my team, that I know what they are, but I also know I have a lot of weaknesses. But I have great people around me that can help me with that, and it's empowering for them to know that I can say that. So I think it makes for a better conversation. I think it makes for more candor when we're talking about people's development, performance reviews, that we can have a conversation about. I don't have all the answers, and you shouldn't either, and we don't, but collectively we can come up with them. But it really kind of sets the tone, right, for just being
Yep.
genuine and being humble, and being the type of culture you want to work in. I mean, if you know that you don't have to have all the answers, right? And you can put your guard down, and be a human, and know that we're not all perfect, but yet we can help each other be as successful as possible.
Good. Good stuff, man. Great answers. Great, very vibrant interview today. So thanks for doing this. Any last thoughts for the folks listening in, or anything you want to share about River Valley?
No, I mean, I just appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today, Mark. I greatly do. And no, I was excited. It was all this content was just, really helped me kind of think and how important it is of how we show up as leaders. And, when you think about culture, I mean, we set the tone, right? And so how we show up each and every day, it cascades and everybody's watching. And that's the one thing I think about a lot, that everybody's watching our lead. So it's great to focus on that and spend 30 minutes here today talking about it. So thank you.
You got it, man. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, Mark.